Depending on the nature of the program, whether it's in the sciences, oftentimes there are research assistantships where faculty get grants from either the National Science Foundation or the National Institutes of Health that will support students working in a particular laboratory. In arts and humanities and some of the fields where there isn't so much government funding available, there are still graduate assistantships and fellowships that are available, primarily teaching assistantships. And then there are traineeships that are available to support students in a variety of professional doctoral programs. And so, these assistantship packages can be very generous. It's not just money to cover the cost of your tuition and fees. Typically, an assistantship will come with some sort of a tuition remission package, so that a full-time course load for a graduate study is covered. Many schools also offer health insurance packages to their graduate assistants. And then on top of that, you get a stipend that will cover your books and your fees and your room and board and other living expenses. And these can range, depending on the school, from, and I think we usually, in terms of trying to be competitive among our peers, keep track of what graduate assistants are earning. But they're running now anywhere between, I think the lowest I saw for the past year was $10,000 per year to as high as $30,000 or $40,000 per year. And this is while you're in school.
That's the stipend, or the
That's the stipend.
That's the stipend piece of it.
Yeah, and again, it depends. I mean, that's the big message that we really want to give you is it depends, and that means that you have to do your homework. That means that at a given institution, they may have a faculty member with a just ginormous grant who has all kinds of ability to do funding. Someone in a similar program at a different institution may not have that same ability to offer that. So you're going to want to shop around and be asking those kinds of questions. And faculty are going to, frankly, be expecting them.
And the reason, I mean, it is, each of you that are making the decision to go on to grad school, you're foregoing income that you could earn in the job market if you went immediately and took a job. And so that particular, the human resource, the human capital there is worth the money to the faculty. And so depending on what field you're applying to and what you might be able to make as an undergraduate or someone with an undergraduate degree coming straight out of your undergraduate program really drives what the stipend levels are. So not surprisingly, engineers tend to be making higher stipends than, say, somebody who's an English major. But even then, I mean, for instance, at UMaine, I think our lowest stipends, the ones that we pay the minimum for which no department can go below, is $12,500. So it's not anything to be rich on or to be able to live wealthy on, but it's certainly enough to cover your basic room and board expenses, especially in light of the fact that your tuition and health insurance are covered on top of that.
Well, you just made the point about English, but you also have many of your English graduate students that are teaching. Right? So those, I mean, you don't have to be in the sciences, I guess is what I'm saying, in order to get, an assistantship. So it's important to be asking those questions regardless of what your discipline is. It's just some disciplines are going to be a little bit more well-funded than others. So how do you find that out, right? Now you all want to know. How do you find that out? Ways to find out about different graduate programs there's two search engines that we recommend a lot, petersons.com and gradschools.com, and they're listed on your green sheet here. You can search by discipline, you can search by degree, by region of the country, all kinds of different things in terms of finding out a listing, sort of a broad listing of different programs. And then you can drill down within each of those programs to figure out what are the prereqs, what are the levels of funding that they have, more about the size of the programs, things like that. And that's a great place to start. And then you've got the graduate fairs, like the one tomorrow coming up here at Middlebury. And also the Career Center is a fantastic place to go. One of the things that we found is that as we go around and do these different workshops, is that the career centers really know their students, and so they've done a lot of that legwork of looking things up, and they know a lot of that piece. So they're a good resource for you as well.
A couple other things that you might be able to find on gradschools.com or Peterson's are things like the program size, how many students might typically be admitted in for a particular admission cycle or academic year, what the test score requirements are, and we'll talk a little bit about testing later, but all of that basic admissions information is also out there in both those search engines.
It just reminded me too, that it brings up another good point, that there's a wide variety of competition levels in graduate programs as well. There are some graduate programs that are just amazingly competitive. Scott mentioned before UMaine's clinical psychology program, hundreds of applications for 4 to 6 spots a year. And then you've got other programs that have a much more open application acceptance rate, I'm sorry. They're much more open. So again, that's another thing that you probably want to be looking at in terms of what level of competition do you want going into the application process, and how many schools are you going to apply to? That's another thing that you're thinking about as you're strategizing what you want to do here.
When should I start contacting the graduate school to which I'm interested in? What should I ask? What we're trying to, breaking this up between institution program websites and the graduate admissions offices and the faculty and the programs themselves, is to try to get at the different types of questions you might ask at different levels to each of these different contact points. We talked a little bit about the fact that the decision process in terms of graduate admissions is faculty-centered. That being said, faculty are not administrators, and therefore a lot of the more bureaucratic questions like admissions deadlines, what components constitute a competitive application, those are not questions that they're going to be really enthusiastic about answering. They're going to want to talk about curriculum, they're going to want to talk about their research, they want to talk about the different types of projects and the funding that's available. They're not, by and large, not going to really want to talk about the more bureaucratic issues. And so we mentioned the program websites and the graduate admissions offices because it's those two particular points of contact that are set up and equipped to answer those types of more routine questions. And so if you need to check on what components there are to an application, we highly recommend that rather than use whatever capital you have with the faculty in terms of communicating with them to ask that question, that you take care of the more routine things with the graduate admissions offices or just pull that information off the websites.